Hello, everybody. We are here with Kathy Lewis and
Oh, where'd you go? I can't hear you.
uh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So we are here in this new episode of Universal Laws. And today is with me Kathy Lewis, and Kathy will introduce with the Universal Law number 5, the law of action. And all right, so let's have a conversation about the law of action. So,
Okay, you
Kathy,
ready?
you have the floor.
Okie dokie. Okay, the law of action simply means that you can spend all the time in the world getting clear on what you want, writing down your desires and seeing yourself receiving your desires and getting excited about it. But sitting on the couch, imagining them won't bring them to you. While you're putting out all that energy thinking about them, eventually it could be that you will receive some or all of your desires. Yet, if you want to receive those desires anytime soon, my friends, you must take action. You've got to remember the universe is programmed to respond to your actions and meet you halfway. In other words, you do your job and the universe will do their job. Let's talk about the positive law of action. Now, this is a true story. Years ago, I made friends with a young man in my building who walked with a slight limp. And he revealed to me that when he was 16 years old, he and his buddies went to a local swimming hole. Well, he jumped headfirst into the water, not realizing that he had dived into the shallow end of the lake. And he woke up in the hospital with a broken neck, paralyzed from the neck down. The doctors sadly confirmed that he would be in that condition for the rest of his life. This boy's mother, however, had other ideas. He said that she pulled him out of his pity party by asking him what he intended to do about this situation. Well, he lamented there was nothing he could do. She heard the doctors. She said, "You have a powerful mind, son. And while you are lying there doing nothing, I encourage you to close your eyes and visualize yourself as whole and well, driving your car, dancing with your girlfriend, playing sports, everything you did before your accident. God already sees you as whole and well. You just need to see yourself that way." He told me that he spent about 3 months feeling sorry for himself, but then he said he just got bored. So he decided to take action. So, from that moment, when he woke up each morning until he went to sleep at night, he was visualizing himself as whole and well. Took about a year, but there he was, completely back to normal except for a slight limp. And he did tell me that none of the doctors could believe his complete transformation. He took action. And guess what? The universe matched him.
Kathy, one question
Yes.
as far as what you just said. Um, what will be the action he took based on the circumstances he faced that basically he was paralyzed?
He could not
What
do anything physically, but he could visualize. So he closed his eyes and he visualized himself doing all of the things he used to do before his accident.
so
And the
basically
more he visualized it, the more it became a reality.
so basically the action was the visualization.
Yes. So in his case, his action couldn't be his movement because he was paralyzed. Instead, he used his mind. He used the power to visualize. And I'm going to tell you something interesting. There was a study done on a basketball team in Australia, and they divided the team into three groups. And the first group was given an extra 20 minutes to actually physically go out and practice shooting the ball into the hoop. The second group was given 20 minutes to close their eyes and visualize themselves throwing the ball into the hoop. The third group was told just keep doing what you're doing. At the end of this experiment, the first group who physically did extra improved about 20%. The shocker was the second group that actually improved over 20% simply by visualizing they're shooting the basket into the hoop, the ball into the hoop. Of course, the third group didn't change at all. So visualization, it really works. It has been proven with athletes. And my friend here, he took action, he visualized his healing, and there he was. Except for a slight limp, he was completely healed. Isn't that wonderful?
Awesome. So basically, the action is the visualization in this example.
Yes.
Can you think about other examples like what taking action is like? If we
yes. Let me give you an example. A man who had been unemployed for a year, who finally came to me for help. I pinned him down on the thing about his other jobs that he truly loved and got him to research other engineering companies who would use his skills. And when he found a company, I made him get in his car and drive to that company. And while he was driving, I told him to say, I know there is a perfect job for me at this company. I can be such an addition to their staff. I have the skills they need for this project they're working on. So he walked, he didn't want to do it. He was one of these guys who sat in front of a computer all day, but he did it. And he walked into the lobby, walked over to the receptionist, explained to her why he was there, that he knew they had a project going on, and he had specific skills relating to this project he felt would be valuable for them. And of course, the board receptionist said, leave your resume. But here's the amazing thing, Raul. This is how the universe works. At that moment, guess who was walking through the lobby? The CEO of the company. And he heard this man talk about his specific skills. And he went over and introduced himself. And he said, you sound like you have some skills we need. Why don't we go have a talk? So he took him into his office. And do you think he got the job? He certainly did. So he'd been unemployed for a year, sitting in front of his computer, sending out resumes into cyberspace. But when he got clear on what he wanted and took action, the universe met him halfway and he got that job. That's a true story.
Wonderful.
Yeah, okay, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a personal example that happens to me when I got my my second job in the US. I was determined to get a job, and I for me, taking action was, think that I will get the job that I want, but then operate also in the 3D, which, is where we live.
Yep.
By sending emails to the leadership positions of the companies that I am interested.
Yeah.
But, I just take the domain name of the website, assume that, that the email will be like Cathy@capstone.com, and send the email. From the more than, I would say, 100 emails I sent, one responded. And I met him at the international airport in Miami. His name is Ron Copot. He's a good friend of mine now, mentor, and he was also my mentor. And that's how I got my job. I met him, top executive. Funny story, he made me wait 10 minutes, and he was so embarrassed by being late. And I told him, no worries, things happens, and I understand. We had such an amazing conversation that he told me, well, you are hired, but you need to go through the process. But don't worry. So that's how I get my job. I relocated from Florida to Georgia. So it really works, but it has the visualization and do something else. I think help.
Yes. But Raul, you have to believe that it's possible. And with this particular engineer, it was like every time I meet with a new client, it's like pulling teeth to get people to tell me what they really want and what excites them. And I kept asking him, what have you done on any engineering job that you really enjoyed? Well, I don't
Right.
know. And it finally, he started talking about something, his whole voice changed. His face lit up. And I said, this is what you love doing. He said, yes, it is. Well, then there's another company who can use your services. And we went from there. He took action. He did the research. He took action, and he actually, against all the protests, he actually got in his car and drove to that company. And the result was he got that wonderful job. Who would have thought the CEO would be walking through the lobby at the moment he went in to drop off his resume? Now, what are the odds, Raul? This is how God works. The universe is set up just like this to match you. So if people could realize this and go for their dreams, they would be so excited to see how quickly they happen.
No, absolutely. So like a pause into that take action. A friend of mine asked me this question. Hey, Raul, when you talk about the universe and God, is there a difference between universe and God? When Kathy say, the universe will listen, the universe will um,
Mm-hmm.
act on it. Is the universe equivalent to God, to Jesus? What is the real meaning of universe
I don't
versus
think people
God?
understand, Raul. The universe is alive. It's just like the earth. We call the earth Mother Earth. Do you know why? Because Mother Earth is alive. The universe is alive. They're angels to serve, they're here to serve God. As a matter of fact, the planet Earth itself is an archangel who volunteered to become the earth. The same is true when, God is prime creator. God creates, and whatever God creates is alive, and they
So
serve God.
what you are saying is that universe is another entity that God
Yep.
creates, or is
Huh?
the universe the universe is referred as God?
The universe is an entity that God creates, just like God creates the angels, the archangels, our spirit guides, our guide who protects us. All of those are God's creations, and they are here with great joy, I might add, to serve God. They love to be of service.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, we will have to talk about that because the perspective that we are bringing here is a perspective that unifies, not um, create fragmentation between our
Yeah.
belief
Mhm.
that come from religion, right?
Do you
Um,
know how I heard about that? Did I tell you how I knew about the universe?
oh no, you
God
didn't.
actually talked to me, and God told me, I was making the statement, well, dear God, I know you're really busy and, you're out slaying dragons or whatever you do. And you don't have time to hear my paltry little prayers. And God started laughing. And he said, my child, you don't understand. He said, I have set up the universe to respond to your every thought and every desire. Now you got to watch out because they take you literally. If you think negative, they pop in there with negative. So you must continue to think positive. But I've told so many people who have been afraid to pray to God because they thought, why would God Why would God answer my prayer? God is so busy. He's dealing with important things, and I'm just a little peon down here. And when I explained to them what God told me, that God loves you so much that he has set up this 24-hour, 7-day a week program. Call it, if you want, you can call it a program that is activated by your every thought, every word, every desire. So it's not like you're going to God and petitioning God. God has already said, I will give you the desires of your heart. So this is how he does it. It's like a trust fund, you know, he set up this trust fund for us. Like your parents went to the bank and opened an account, and all you needed was a password to get into the account and to access all the trust fund money they left you. Well, God has given us the password, and it's thank you. Gratitude. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I know the perfect job is here for me, and I thank you for showing me the way. That activates the universe.
Right, right. So that's great. Let's not deviate from the main subject. I think that when we finish the universal laws, we can talk deeply about the universe and how it relates to the angels, archangels, what is third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven dimensions, and all that is another amazing topic that the Holy Spirit is bringing here. That's
absolutely,
and another discussion. But let's finish with the universal laws.
Okay, well, let's go on to the negative law of action. Now, so much of our actions are triggered by the way we feel about ourselves, unfortunately. There seems to be a severe problem with low self-esteem on this planet. And your feelings that you don't deserve good things will hold you back from receiving your desires. I encouraged a friend of mine who always worked factory jobs or jobs involving a lot of heavy labor to utilize that fine mind of hers and go after a desk job. In her 50s, she lived in my basement apartment for 12 years. She dragged herself home every day so tired she could hardly even stand. She knew office skills. She knew computer programs. She was tenacious, quick to learn. She a real problem solver and appreciated by her employer on every job she worked for her hard work. We went through the steps of writing down her perfect job, taking action to find it. But you know what, Raul? Unfortunately, her negative belief that she just wasn't good enough meant that she always ended up ignoring the office jobs and focusing on the hard labor jobs. That's all she knew. Guess what job she ended up with again? Taking action is great, but you need to also believe in yourself if you want the universe to bring you the desires of your heart. So this is the negative part of taking action. When you take action and go back and back and back, falling into what is safe for you instead of reaching out to all of the wonderful blessings that God has for you. And you go back, and you know this 4-step program that we've been talking about, from powerless to powerful, and 4 easy steps. Well, that's step number 1. Go back to the core issues from your childhood, like this friend of mine, and where they all started when her dad told her she was a nothing and her mother told her she was a nothing. There you have it. So you got to work through those before you take action. So now we go on to universal law number 6. This is called the law of responsibility. It truly does start with you. The law of responsibility says that everything in your life you create, you promote, or you allow. So the little slide to the left over here says what you permit, you promote. What you allow, you encourage. What you condone, you own. Your life is a series of challenges designed to strengthen your character and move you up the ladder of spiritual soul growth. There is no challenge that you cannot overcome. God also told me that. He said, I never give my children a challenge that cannot be overcome, as witnessed by the young man paralyzed from the neck down who chose to put forth the time and effort it took to heal himself. Every challenge allows you to make a choice to take the high road and overcome the challenge, thus gaining strength of character and growing spiritually, or you can take the low road. You can fall into victimhood and blame everyone else for your problems. I hear this all the time from people who are involved with prisoners. And they say so many of the prisoners blame everybody for the reason they're in prison. It's all your fault that I'm here in prison. They chose the low road. Remember, it isn't the challenge that defines you, it is how you react. Everybody has challenges. So let's talk about the positive law of responsibility. Now, this is about me. Years ago,
Kathy,
I became
Kat,
ill. Yeah.
excuse me, before we go into that slide and
Uh-huh.
that topic, um, is the law of responsibility equal to the law of accountability, being accountable? Is
Absolutely.
it are those synonyms or
Hmm.
different
Absolutely.
concepts?
You are accountable for everything in your life.
Okay,
Everything.
just wanted to make that distinction
Uh,
because um, there are people that were brought to planet Earth with different circumstances in life, right? For instance, you were grown, you know, you were sent to the United States, and you grow up in the United States. Your soul comparing to physical and create your personality, Kathy, right?
mhm.
But let's and then you have a house and both parents that um, raise you accordingly. But let's put it this way: Kathy now was born. Another Kathy was born in Africa, in Somalia. Uh, being an orphan, and so I'm just trying to understand the distinction of your experience as a human being and the challenges that you face are sort of determined already, meaning that your life in the US will not compare to a life in Somalia, right? I'm just trying to make a distinction, and this may be another topic also. How is that we choose our parents? How is that we choose our circumstances? Or we choose the circumstances and it's like, you know,
We
uh,
do. You know, I think I told you the story of Sylvia Brown, the world renowned psychic who did past life regressions. And a woman came to her wanting to know what she had done to her obnoxious mother in law in a previous lifetime that stuck her with her in this lifetime. She was making her life miserable. And Sylvia Brown said in the thousands of past life regressions, she had never had this happen. The woman did not go back to a previous lifetime. The woman went back home. And this is what a soul does, Raul. She saw herself with her angels and her guides, creating her next lifetime and planning the lessons that she wanted to learn. So, this girl in Somalia chose that lifetime. She chose to be there. She chose her parents. She chose her circumstances for the lessons that she wanted to learn. And in this lifetime, the woman was sitting there planning her next lifetime, and sitting next to her was her dearest friend who, in all of eternity, who said, and I am volunteering to come back as your obnoxious mother in law to help you learn charity and patience.
mm, awesome. Okay, I don't want to deviate. That's another subject that we can go very deep. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
Kathy. You were talking about the positive law of responsibility.
Yeah. Well, this one is something that happened to me. Years ago, I became ill, preventing me from working for a couple of months. Despite my illness, I still had to pay the bills. You know, I had office space, related expenses, the copier, the utilities, the telephone, etc. So I used my charge cards to make the payments. When I returned to work and saw the huge unpaid balances on those charge card statements, Raul, I almost gave up. And I actually thought about filing for bankruptcy. But remembering what God said, I never give you a challenge that you cannot overcome. I pushed that thought out of my mind and I said, I know there is a way to pay off these debts. And I thank you, God, for showing me the way. Well, suddenly this thought came into my head to take the unpaid balances on each charge card and divide them by 52 weeks and make weekly payments, trusting that my business would generate the money to pay them. Because you need to remember your subconscious mind is very important in your desires. Because if it's like saying, I am healed of this illness. Well, if your subconscious mind doesn't believe you, you're not going to be healed. Whereas this subconscious mind could more easily accept small weekly payments instead of those huge monthly payments. So that's what I did. And you know what? Enough money came in each week to make those payments, and every one of those bills was paid off within a year. So that's the positive side, taking responsibility. I chose to take the high road and accept responsibility for my debts, just knowing that everything would work out. And you know what? It did. Can you think of an incident that has happened to you? A
Um,
challenge where you chose the high road?
well, my life sometimes has been always to be in high roads for some reason. It's like I decided to challenge myself, like I am financially challenged, but I am not scared. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I will manage it. Um, but I remember many times uh, that I take the responsibility of not giving up, of keep it going, right? And took the
Yep.
high road. And one example that comes to my mind is when I decided to do my master's in computer science in the Université de Versailles in France, where basically I survived with $6,000 for 2 years, equivalent to
Wow.
francs. In that it was no euro at that time. So it was amazed. I was amazed. I'm always amazed of things that um, that believe that were not possible, but at the end it turned into something positive.
Isn't it amazing? It
Yeah.
truly is amazing. It's just like when I get into my car and I say, thank you for the green lights. And if I come to a red light, it turns green quickly because my subconscious mind can accept that because you're not going to get all green lights. It just ain't going to happen. But if I come to a red light and I've made the statement, they turn green quickly, they do. And when I made this
Mhm.
statement, I know that I'm going to have enough money coming in to pay these bills. Sure enough, I did. And somehow you knew when you made that decision to go to France, you knew that you were going to do it. And somehow just saying, I know this money is enough to take care of me. Guess what? It did, didn't it?
Yeah, and currently in the present time, as we speak, I am being challenged by in so many fronts, right? Real estate, technology, and all that. And I am taking the responsibility of keeping of going forward and being unstoppable under the circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
right? So um, I believe while we are video recording these topics, I may be very tempted to write a book. Outlining all of those experiences. I think it will be something I really would like to share. But and I know that I will have the time to do that. So that will be another challenge.
Yeah.
But let's put it that way. Kathy, this is awesome. So we nailed the two universal laws, and so what will be the next ones? Do you know? What
Well,
will be
we
the
didn't
next?
we didn't go through the negative law of responsibility.
Oh, okay. The
So
negative
let's
law
finish up
responsibility.
with this quickly. As I
Okay.
stated earlier, there is no challenge that you cannot overcome if you are willing to open yourself up to possibilities. Nevertheless, some people choose to take the low road and blame everyone else for their problems. I listened for years to a friend of mine filled with anger and bitterness over her ex husband who left her for a younger woman. This spilled out over to her teenage children who spent less and less time at home because of her negativity over their dad. When her ex husband suggested that she sell that large house, since the kids would be going away to college soon, she gloated over the fact she refused to sell it, even though it was too much for her. She made this statement: over my dead body. And I was looking at this friend of mine. She was overweight, unhappy, looking 20 years older than her years. I asked her if this is what she wanted for her life, living in misery just to get even with her husband. I reminded her she used to have this wonderful job staging homes that were on the market for realtors. She could do that with her own home and sell it quickly. She could then get back into doing what she loved if she was willing to forgive her ex husband and move on. And this is what really got her. I asked her to look at how her anger and nasty comments about her ex husband were affecting her children because they came to me and shared the way they felt. Now, that really woke her up. So she made the decision to sell, staged the home and sold it quickly, bought a lovely townhome, lost 40 pounds, restored her career, got her children back, and met a wonderful man. So in the end, she chose the high road. But
That's
Raul, let
awesome.
me ask you a question. Why do you think she was so down on her husband?
You mean why she was in anger mode with
Yeah,
her husband?
because he left a younger woman. Because on some level, she was not taking responsibility for what caused him to stray. She was not happy being a stay at home mom. And I knew them for years, and she took it out on the husband. But she could
Hmm.
not face the truth that she was just as responsible as he for the breakup of the marriage.
Yeah,
And when
I
she was
agree.
able to admit that and release it, then her whole life changed. Forgiveness will do that to you, by the way. So that is our PowerPoint
I
for lesson.
agree with what I agree with what you just I agree with what you just said. It takes two people to get into a conflict mode.
Yes,
And
it really does.
when you decide not to, you know, um, not to be in the conflict, then there's no conflict, right? So
That's exactly right.
so many times I hear, oh, it's her fault, or it's his fault, and I believe this is, you know, that's where the responsibility and accountability of both human beings needs to happen. I I was short on this. This is what it was missing on my behavior, and this was it was missing on yours, and therefore maybe there was not a timeline to be together.
Mhm.
Maybe in the future, maybe in another life, maybe in the next 10 years, 5 years, when we learn from our mistakes, then we can reunite, or maybe go in different paths, right? So,
Yeah,
but it's just taking responsibility, as you said, not blaming others. It's so easy to blame others and not take accountability of our own actions.
I think the hardest part for people to understand, and this was very hard for me to understand, is the fact that God sees your pure heart. And you keep forgetting that you are a pure reflection of God who came here to make mistakes. Apparently, staying in heaven where everything is perfect slows down your growth, your soul growth. If you really are serious about soul growth, you come to planet Earth to make mistakes. God expects every one of his children to make mistakes. But here's the point, Raul. When you make the mistake, you can stop and say, oh, okay. So how did this make me feel? I don't like the way this makes me feel. I won't do that again. And move on. But we don't do that. What do? We beat ourselves up. We think we're terrible human beings. We don't want to look at God. God, don't look at me. I'm a horrible person. We do not understand. In the sight of God, you will be always pure and perfect. You could never do anything to turn God against you, ever.
That's
And that
right.
part of soul growth is to understand you came here to make mistakes. So make your mistake, learn from it, and move on. Stop dwelling on your mistakes.
Yeah,
Everybody's going to make them, you know?
yeah. Human beings, um, tend to blame others, be very, in that mode of blaming others,
Yeah,
blaming themselves also. Like you just said, they are unable to forgive themselves for their mistakes.
yeah.
Blame is a combination of different low emotions
Hmm.
that really have consequences
Yes,
at
I
all
know.
levels: emotional, depression, and illness and all that. So that's so awesome. Every time we elaborate in a universal law, um, it really helps us to really see where we are at,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And definitely, it's very important to know about this, and that's why I keep telling my friends, hey, you want to have a better life,
Hmm.
understand the universal laws. And somebody asked me, but who created the universal laws? And then I said, well, that's a good question.
Hmm.
uh, I believe who created the universal laws actually is God,
Hmm.
right? And that's where we come to these philosophical questions: and who created God,
Hmm.
right?
Of course,
And
that is a question that will go throughout every lifetime on this planet because there was always God. In the beginning was God. God.
right, so and obviously that is a more in-depth philosophical way of seeing life, right? So that's why we have people that doesn't believe in God. We call agnostics or atheists.
Hmm.
um, and I believe the moment there is a feeling of love, that's where God is. Who creates love?
Well, love is truly the most powerful force in the universe.
And then I come back to the question of who creates energy.
Hmm.
There's a law of physics that says energy never destroys itself, it just transforms
Yeah.
itself,
It's just
right?
like
So
you. When you die, you don't die. Your physical body is put aside, but you transform back to your spirit because we're spiritual beings having a human experience and driving around in these bodies, these carbon
right,
based bodies. And when we go back home, we're released from all of this. If you've ever read stories about near death experiences, people always say, I was out of my body and the freedom that I felt. I wondered, how did I ever live in that cumbersome body?
yeah. That's a matter of another topic. So we have so much fun on doing this because the way how we are basically guiding those conversations are driven by questions from friends
Yeah.
and and we are unapologetic in developing those topics
Hmm.
because we believe are having a meaning. And so that's great. Okay, Kathy, we extend our time. As usual, it was very fun to talk to you and getting deeper and deeper about these topics. And I was sharing with my kids. I said, well, when I started this conversation with Kathy, I don't know how many whatever I have been, I say now, um, developing. But at the same time, the more and more we are doing these transmissions, I see that fluently observations that we are interchanging, and it makes this conversation fluid.
Yeah,
And
God is
then
always guiding us.
and it's improving also my language and communication
Yeah,
skills, and
yes,
hopefully it will serve all human beings that will listen to this podcast. This is coming to
yes,
be a legacy from
absolutely.
our heart to others.
And as we always say at the end of each session, please, please remember how much you are loved and how much you matter. You are very important to God.
Amen.
Amen.
Yes. Okay, goodbye, Kathy, and goodbye, everybody that will listen to this video. And like Kathy said, don't forget that God always, always loved you.
Absolutely. So next week, it's Universal Laws number 7 and 8.
Yeah. Okay,
Take care.
goodbye. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.